Now let me tell you two things. Study population बहुत discuss हुआ है. I just want to concentrate on sample size. Two issues. One, if you know the assumptions, it is the easiest thing to calculate sample size. Easiest thing. If you know the assumptions. Assumptions are very very important. Number one. Number two, how? There are thousands of softwares. कुछ online है, कुछ ये है. What I will suggest, though I will show in Stata, and what I have heard from Vijay is that in AIMS Rishikesh there is a Stata. What I have heard. I asked Vijay. So that means if there is a Stata in AIMS Rishikesh, so that means I will provide the Stata codes to all of you regarding the basic sample size calculation. So you can play with that because you have Stata. For the other medical colleges, I don't know. What about Shimla? You don't have the Stata. What about you? For both of these two of your college, I can give you one suggestion. There is a software called AIMSmaster. AIMSmaster developed by CMC Vellore Biostatistics Department. नाम है उसका, मैं दिखाऊंगा भी आपको. उसका नाम है AIMSmaster. It is developed by CMC Vellore Biostatistics Department. When I was doing my PG 2010-11, at that time it was cost around 2,500 rupees. तब कितना होगा? 5,000 ही होगा. But one time license. एक बार मिलेगा तो मिल जाएगा. So the sites, the medical colleges where the Stata is not available, I would suggest to buy this so that you don't need to depend on other person to calculate something. You can cross check. Always you can cross check with a PSM friend or a statistician friend. But at first go, if you know the assumptions, you can easily calculate the sample size for your own study. You don't need to depend. That is my main purpose of this presentation. Okay, so first regarding the study population, I think we all discussed this. We know what is the importance of the study population, and I will suggest that whoever presented today and will present, with presentation baki hai, just think through properly about how to define the study population. For example, for you, I told that there were two criteria in your study population. So when you are defining your study population, you need to be very specific. For you also, I told the same thing. So when you are thinking about the study population, it needs to be very specific. That is the most important point. Second thing is that, let's take an example. This study recently published in BMJ. You can see my name there also. You can see there the current DGISM name also. He was also part of the study. He was in WHO at that time. So this study we published in BMJ last year to see the impact of a package of interventions: health, nutrition, psychosocial care, support and wash interventions delivered during preconception, pregnancy and early childhood period on birth outcomes and linear growth at 24 months of age of factorial individual randomized control trial. बहुत बड़ा नाम है. I am giving you 1 minute to read the title, and please don't see this. Can you tell me what could be the potential study population for this study? Please don't say this. Sorry. Spelling how? If this is the study, what could be the study population?
Ladies before preconception lady.
Yeah. So the study population here basically three groups. One, because the study started from preconception, so that means women. Some definition of preconception that means women of reproductive age group. Randomization done at that stage. But then another round of randomization done when they got pregnant. So that is pregnant women is also a study population. And there is a study continued till 24 months of age. So that means children from birth to 24 months of age also study population. So when this kind of, then you can think that when you think about study population, not necessarily that study population should be only one group. It depends on what is your study, in which kind of study you are trying to do. If this is a longitudinal study where it starts from preconception, pregnancy and childhood, and all the three age group can get the intervention for our city, then whole spectrum is a study population. So what I am trying to say here is that when you think about your study population, try to be very specific and try to see which population you are covering. Because sometimes what happens, just thinking through, you may think that इस study में तो सिर्फ ये study population, not like that, because ये study चल रहा है ना, यहाँ पे study खत्म नहीं हो गया. So that's why it is very critical to understand the importance of study population. Now, why it is important to selecting a study population? You all know all this, but the most important thing is that suppose we have $200 billion आपको दिया है और आपको बोला कि $200 billion आपको दे रहा है गेट्स फाउंडेशन. चलिए गेट्स लेंगे, गेट्स का वाइट में आता है, बिलिंडा तो अलग से फाउंडेशन खुला है, बिलिंडा गेट फाउंडेशन.
ये रिसर्च फंड करते हैं टोल
मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ आपको दिया गया 200 बिलियन, मिलियन नहीं बोला, बिलियन
बिलियन बोला,
बिलियन बोला, मिलियन नहीं, 200 बिलियन दिया. ये सबको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर देंगे यहाँ पे 20 लोग को. और एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रिसर्च क्वेश्चन है. क्या रिसर्च क्वेश्चन हो सकते हैं? चलिए मेरे दिमाग, मैं न्यूट्रिशन डोमेन पे काम करता हूँ, मेरे दिमाग में सडनली एनीमिया है. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है, 40 साल से इंडिया में एनीमिया का प्रॉब्लम है और एनीमिया का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना है. और कौन से एज ग्रुप पे करना है? चलिए मैं ये मान के चल रहा हूँ कि सिर्फ प्रेग्नेंट वुमेन में करना है. What you will do? You will take all pregnant women of India, or you select something from different parts of India. $200 billion है आपके पास. I have given them $200 billion.
पूरा इंडिया हो जाएगा.
अब पूरा इंडिया हो जाएगा, आप करेंगे. 29 states, कितना यूटीज है? 8. जो भी है. Will you do the study full India, or you will select study sample? Based on the criteria I will come.
वाइड कवरेज पर सैंपलिंग
करेंगे ना, पूरा तो कभी नहीं करेंगे, जितना भी पैसा दे रहे हैं आपको नहीं करेंगे. So now the important issues come, how you will select so that there is a generalizability of your finding. And ultimately at the end of the day, so how you can select that? There are multiple ways to select that, but primarily two things: probability sampling, non-probability sampling. I will not talk about non-probability sampling because the way you are thinking about your research proposal, non-probability sampling is not applicable anywhere. So I am not going to the direction. I will talk about only probability sampling. Probability sampling, the term probability से समझ में आ रहा है? What does that mean? Means everybody has an equal chance of getting selected. Fine. Now what are the different types of probability sampling? That will be important for all of you. Primarily 3-4 types. Primarily. Simple random sampling, stratified sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling. I think none of your project is applicable for cluster sampling, the way what I have heard till now. Either it will be a simple random sampling, or it can be a stratified sampling, it can be a systematic sampling. What are the difference between these three? Some basic idea that will help me to tell you the differences.
Second, using some computer based on something method.
Do you think that what should be the baseline, basic thing that you need to have in your hand before? That means you have the total line listing of everything. Then only you can do, na?
All the units.
Then only you can do simple random sampling. Then computer generated hai. Nowadays a computer generated. When I did my first study in my PG time, that time it was also computer generated, but I didn't have the access that time. So we used to have computer generated number usually at the back pages of statistics books. We used to do that only. When you will do stratified sampling?
You have the risk factor which you want in both.
Good. Any example?
Diabetes in wombs.
Sorry?
Diabetes in wombs.
Diabetes and में कैसे करोगे थोड़ा सा?
Like I don't want one group to not have diabetes and the other group to have only diabetes, so it may affect.
So that means you will stratify them by having diabetes and non-diabetes, and then you will do the simple random sampling. Clear? So that means, suppose in my research question, I am thinking to have say prevalence. I'm just talking about prevalence now. Prevalence of some of the disease or conditions, but I want to do it differently. Want to have this information separately in diabetic and non-diabetic, for example. So that risk factor you can stratify. What about systematic sampling? And I'm saying why it is important. For hospital-based, OPD-based studies, systematic sampling is very important.
Periodic. Taking a periodic sample.
Have you ever done this systematic sampling? Have you ever done simple random sampling?
All these.
मैम आप अकेले ऑलवेज बोल रहे हैं, यहाँ पर ऑलरेडी 20 लोग हैं. नो वन. सब लोगों ने तो थीसिस किया है. अब सब लोग मेरे से सीनियर हैं. मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर योर सीनियर टू, अपार्ट फ्रॉम 1 or 2. क्या है ना, सिस्टेमेटिक सैंपलिंग क्या होता है ना, ओपीडी में क्या होता है, ओपीडी में आपको पता नहीं है कि कितने लोग आ रहे हैं कितने लोग नहीं आ रहे हैं. आप सिंपल रैंडम सैंपलिंग करना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल हो जाता है. लेकिन आप सिस्टेमेटिक का मतलब क्या है, एवरी 5th, every 10th, every 15th, there are some way to do that. But this is one example where you can apply the systematic random sampling. But usually आप लोगों का जो research proposals है, if I remember correctly, in none of the cases systematic random sampling will be applicable. Mostly SRS and stratified sampling will be done. In most cases. Okay, there are some advantage, disadvantage. You all know this. This slide I just want to discuss with you. This is very important and inherent point of any study. Internal validity and generalizability / external validity. It is how important I can tell you. I show you that first the paper, the BMJ paper that we published. In that paper, in the discussion section, one of the reviewers specifically asked this question, that how your finding will be generalizable not only in India but other low and middle income countries. So when you are starting or initiating any research project, these two things need to be kept in your mind, that how the internal validity will be maintained and how generalizability will be maintained. So it's very simple English it is written. Internal validity means extent to which the experiment is free from errors or any differences in measurement is due to independent variable and nothing. This means internal validity means internal mechanism or internal quality of the study. So that means whether you have probability sampling or not, even if you have probability sampling, how rigorously you are measuring the data, whether there is a measurement error or not. All these things need to be kept in mind when you are talking about internal validity. And what is generalizability? The generalizability comes how we have selected your sample. It comes from there. If regarding the selection of your sample, if you have taken a non-probability sampling, or if you have taken a sample from a very vulnerable population, then the findings of your study will be applicable only to those vulnerable population, not full. So that's why these two parts are very important.